Hi, Abraham. Yeah. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah.
Things are going really well for me.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of focusing and have seen a lot of manifestations come my way.
It's really fun to make a decision and then tune yourself deliberately and watch it manifest.
Yeah.
That hands-on
Yeah.
creating is the best,
That's
isn't
awesome.
it? Yeah.
My question is, things are going really well for me, and there's some things that are not going so well for me, and I'm wondering if I'm focusing to such a point, going down my path where things are dropping off for me, like a relationship, things like that used to matter more to me.
Sometimes things drop off because they no longer match. Sometimes things drop off because you're focused upon the decline of them, and so the momentum has to just continue in that direction. And you can tell by the way you feel about it which it is. In other words, if you are exploring life and excited about life and you're thinking about this and this and this and this and this, well, it's logical that things that don't match the things that feel good would become less and less and less in your experience, and eventually they will disappear altogether.
So trusting that feeling and knowing that I'm on my path and this doesn't feel good, and just continuing to feel good and letting things go. That
there are two things that we would do in that situation if we were like you are, a little bit tentative and not knowing which is which. Mm-hmm. We would continue to focus deliberately on things that we want, mm-hmm. that we know we want, and we would make some daily soft effort, isn't quite the right word, but attention to focusing upon the positive aspects of those waning relationships, because every relationship is not just salvageable but precious. And so it's really worth focusing upon the positive aspects of anything that seems to be fading away. And here's why. If you focus upon the positive aspects of something that feels like it's fading away, if it's really not a match to the positive aspects that are dominant within you, it will continue to fade away. But if it is a match and you've just been missing the high points, you've just been focusing negatively, so you're pushing it away, mm-hmm. or you're creating more of what you don't want. In other words, so much of what you don't want you hold to you by your attention to it, and then you want to blame the other, you see. So it's always the right answer to focus upon the positive aspects of anything, even if you have to look hard for them. And if you focus upon the positive aspects and that's what becomes dominant within you, then that becomes your experience with that one. But if that situation or that condition or that reality of that person or that current vibrational practiced belief of that person is really a mismatch to who you are becoming, then the more you focus upon who you really are, and the more who you really are is not a match to who they are being, then a natural moving apart will occur, mm-hmm. until something will happen that will be rather obvious, mm-hmm. and the moment it happens, you will feel waves of relief coming over you as you are no longer trying to hold to you something that doesn't match.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
One of the ways that we've been explaining that, now you heard that clearly, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Didn't you? Mm-hmm. Another way that we've been explaining that is that there is a tendency with teachers like you, with uplifters, you are uplifters to the core of your being, to want to be the one who makes the difference in every relationship. So you just try really, really hard to be somebody else's path of least resistance. So they're ornery, you try to make up for it. Mm-hmm. They're unhappy, you try to be extra cheerful. Mm-hmm. They're depressed, you try to cheer them up. Mm-hmm. They don't have enough of something, you give them some of yours. You've got it flowing to you, and so you mm-hmm. try to be the source for them. Mm-hmm. And they lap it up at first, and then they begin to hate you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As they see you doing for them what they innately know that they are wanting to do for themselves. And so the way we've been saying it, that you can often hear it, is you be the path of least resistance for what's flowing to you, and practice expecting everyone else to do the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something more?
I just think I've seen the path of least resistance. That's a piece that I'm a little confused on, is how, I guess I know by how I feel which path is the path of least resistance.
Let's talk about this. You're going to really like this. We just have one question that's going to clear it all up for you, and that is, where does the path of least resistance lead?
It leads to feeling good, leads to happiness.
You see, that's exactly right, because the tendency is to forget that and to think that it leads to them behaving themselves, or it leads to a condition changing so that I can feel better. It leads to a conditional remedy, which eventually it will. But if you think that that's where the path is going to take you immediately, so you're lining up and then you're watching for the evidence of it, and then you're lining up and then you're watching for the evidence of it, what happens is it backfires on you, because you begin practicing the opposite of what you mean to practice. But if you understand that the path of least resistance always leads to clarity, it leads to more fun, it leads to lightheartedness, it leads to clarity is the best. That feeling of clarity and alignment and empowerment. Esther's been thinking about this quite a bit, especially lately. She's having a house painted. It's a big, big house. And they brought a couple of big cherry pickers in and destroyed the driveway with them, and scaffolds. And then they brought children who are on break from high school to do the work. Some. There was one man that knew what he was doing, and then children. And so Esther is looking out the window, trying not to notice, and she's watching them. They had very little life in them, and they had very little experience in them, and she was afraid they were going to fall from high places, and it just didn't look like there was any way that this was going to lead to the results that she was hoping for. And so she thought, well, I'm just going to focus on their positive aspects. And so she did. They're beautiful. They want a job. They want a summer job. And they have wonderful personalities. But every time the subject of painting the house came into her mind, she couldn't really find any positive aspects about it. And so she thought, well, I'm just going to cool my jets, and I'm just going to be the happy girl that I am, and I'm just going to trust that this will right itself. Because she believes that negative emotion is counterproductive to her desire. And so she tried not to look out of the windows anymore. And as she would come and go, she tried not to look at the things that were going wrong. But she couldn't not, because she was so curious. And she kept finding paint on things that there shouldn't be paint on. And so then she sat and had a little chat with us about it. And we said, Esther, we think there is a misunderstanding. We think that you are mistaking clarity and guidance for doing something inappropriate. In other words, the situation was clearly not going well. And we said, we don't want you to do focus wheels so that you like to eat worms. And we don't want you to do focus wheels so that you like mediocre work either. We want you to let this experience help you to remember what you want. So she started doing focus wheels about excellence and about the feeling of good workmanship, both from the receiver of it and the one who is delivering it. So for a day or two, she focused upon what she really did want. And then this incredible clarity came to her. And this one morning, and she just called the man who owns the company. And she said, I just wanted to talk to you about what's going on out at my house. I had hoped to have company one day. And I liked the idea of it happening before the snow descends upon us. And at this rate, I don't see that happening this year or next year. She's trying to be a little funny. And he said, what do you mean? And she said, you have inexperienced people on this job. And it's a big job that requires something much more. And so I just wanted to let you know this isn't working. And I knew that you were the person that I needed to call, because you are the person who knows who to bring that can get this done. And he said, I really appreciate this call. And the next morning, 8 people showed up, experienced painters with ladders. and scaffolds and big smiles. So what we're getting at is, it's all right for you to not like how something is going. But you can't get to where you want to be from your awareness of what you don't want. But your awareness of what you don't want is the first step in your awareness of what you do want. Clarity is really a wonderful thing. And so when you see what you don't want, doesn't it help you know what you do want? The question is, are you a match to what you do want when you call the man? And Esther was. She was a match to what she wanted when she called him. He felt it rivet through his entire body. He knew that she knew what she wanted, and he knew that she knew that he wasn't giving it to her currently, and he knew that he wanted to give it to her. He wanted to give her what she wanted, because the clarity of what she wanted was so powerful, he could not do otherwise. He became the most effective leader of his corporation that he has ever been in his entire life. People came from everywhere to assist him. And when Esther stopped to talk to him for a minute, and she was smiling about what was happening, and she says, "This makes me feel so much better." And he said, "I had no idea that this many people were available to me right now." And Esther said, "Well, I like what's going on." And she said, "And I like that the boys are here too," because they were. I like that they're here too, because this is how they come to know how this is done. This is how they get the spirit of this. This is how they see what effectiveness is. This is how they see what skill is. This is how they learn what needs to be done. And I know that it's good for all of us. And he just smiled and said, "Have a nice day." And Esther said, "Now I am."
Yeah.
My question is about Abraham, and I know that there's no death, but is Abraham
Dead? Yeah.
No. The physical, are they physical too now at this point?
Yeah, in all of you, or in you, in you. In other words, those like Abraham are expressing physically through those like you, yes.
And I was just wondering, it seems the population is growing. The source energy, is that growing and adding?
Everything is.
Everything
is.
And like, for example, when I quit using this body, I was wondering, would I come back right away, or do you, I mean...
There's an eagerness to do that. But the thing about it is, we like the sequence of your questions, because as you speak of Abraham, and you feel the in this moment, right here, right now-ness of us, you understand that we didn't have to wait for somebody else to be born and learn a language before we could talk.
Okay.
And so source energy, non-physical, is pouring through everyone and everything in very focused ways. And so yes, the exhilaration about this leading edge time-space reality is a very compelling, intoxicating desire. And so you want to come back, and you want to continue to express, and you like to continue to come back and have new vantage points from which to have new comparisons and new contrast, and therefore new desires. Yeah, you're eternal, and the physical aspect of that which is eternal too.
Okay.
One of the things that we really want you to hear, because it's the piece that you don't quite really get the way we mean it, and that is, everything that you think of that is non-physical is forward with you here and now. It's all forward with you here and now. Humans keep wanting to say, "Oh, here we are humble and modest and insignificant, and God or source is out there somewhere else doing all the good stuff, and here we are proving worthiness." And we say it could not be more the other. It's that here you are as extensions of all of that source energy. And the only reason that you ever feel discounted or discordant is because you've found some beliefs that keep you from allowing the fullness of all of that energy that creates worlds from flowing through you toward the endeavors that life has caused you to identify as your creative route, you see. Mm-hmm. Don't you love knowing that? Don't you like knowing the fullness and the joy and the clarity and the power and the wisdom of source flowing to you and through you here and now? So you don't need to worry about source ever needing somebody else to be born in order to flow.
Okay.